Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy David at the Irish Hotspur, Ireland's #1 Spurs fan. And welcome to another Tottenham Weekly, your Thursday Weekly, or your Thursday Tottenham is what I'll call it. And look, never a dull day at Tottenham. Conte's still here. How he hasn't been sacked by now or how a decision hasn't been made, I do not know. I'm guessing that they're both at loggerheads. One doesn't want to pay out the other's contract and the other ain't quitting. So let's see where that goes. Never a dull day at Tottenham Hotspur. But anyway, here to get us through everything we have to discuss today, which will be, has the chance been missed to be able to win or to be able to build a winning team around Kane and Son? What else are we here to talk about, Jacko, today? We have to talk about Daniel Levy's position. Can we get rid of Daniel Levy? You ain't getting the owners anywhere, but can you get rid of Daniel Levy? So, we have that to discuss today as well. What else have we got to discuss here in our little bags of tricks? Is style of football and entertainment more important than trophies to Tottenham fans? So we'll get on to that as well. Another interesting conversation to have. And what else have we got? Should Tottenham go down the proven winner route again or a project manager? So lots of various topics to discuss tonight. And here to get through all these questions today. Difficult questions, maybe conversations as the Spurs fans don't want to have, especially me about Harry Kane, but we have to have them. So, Jacko, how are you, my man?
Doing as best I can, Dave. We're kind of still kept in limbo when it comes to the Spurs situation. We're still being kind of kept, hanging about, not knowing really where it's going to go. Who knows? I'm even seeing some rumors today that Spurs might be considering keeping Antonio Conte because it could be too costly to fire him at this moment in time. We're really being kept, in this purgatory, it feels like, on where kind of, the club is headed, because we're talking about a rebuild, but it feels like maybe there's 1,000 different, subcommittees and things like that are being made for just a pretty easy decision at the end of the day, whether they want to continue with Conte or whether they don't want to or not. And it seems like it's taken their time. But we got the Phil Army representing tonight, Dave, so that's always good. And then also we have Shawnee back for these good debate shows as well to get the good, also, I think, balanced opinion on a lot of things as well, maybe. Because, Dave, we get a little bit in our Parachichi twin, kind of universe and things like that.
I love that. I don't want to come out of it.
We got Sean to break our bubble from time to time. Good to have this crew.
No, it's great to have the boys in here. Shawnee, my man, how are you keeping, brother? Interesting times at Tottenham, huh?
It's always interesting at Tottenham, isn't it? I'm good. I'm healthy. Well, I think I'm healthy. Maybe I'm not so healthy, but I'm still okay. And it's good to be back with the three of you beautiful people for another, no doubt, fiery show. So, I'm excited.
Yeah, the 4 beards. Just after seeing that, 4 beards on screen. Delicious trim beards, may I add. The bearded Thursdays. How are you, Phil?
The bearded ladies. That's a different can of worms. Yeah, really good. I was telling a few of the boys earlier. I've not had a great week. I was feeling a bit under the weather. Missed out on a couple of events I was meant to be attending and throwing my 2 penneth in at. But, it is what it is. We continue. A bit like Conte, I've survived till Thursday night. So, we'll see how it goes. So if my voice gives out before my iron will to keep continuing to support this once illustrious club of ours, we'll keep going. But I've been told I get huskier as I get iller. So, something for those of the audience that like a husky voice, maybe. So, give the people what they want, Dave. Do you know what I mean? I know you're a big believer in that.
Exactly. I'm a big believer in giving the people what they want, my man. You're absolutely spot on. But big up everyone who's come in to join us. We are going to start nailing into some of these hot topics that we have to discuss here. I'll be welcoming you in as we go along as well. So, look, first of all, get in the chat. Let us know who you think has the best trimmed beard. I think that's the #1 topic we need to sort out here today. But also, feel free, to smash that like button. It's absolutely great for us. We're in a constant fight with the algorithm, and I hate losing. So let's win that battle. Also, feel free to smash the subscribe button. Big road to 10K is on. Let's see if it's achievable before the end of the season. And also, feel free to grab a membership if you enjoy the channel and come on and have conversations with us on the fan shows, or get your talking points, whether you agree, disagree, even if you just want to call me deluded. Get it in a super chat. It's a great way to help support the channel and everything we do here. But I also understand it's very hard times. It's also international break as well. And everyone, so all we ask for is to be able to just communicate with us in the chat. That would be absolutely awesome. Just engage with us and we'll bring them up as we go along. Over to you, Jacko.
Let's take it away. And we call these usually the warm-up questions, but let's be honest, usually not easy during these kind of times over at Tottenham Hotspur. So we'll give it to Sean. Sean, has the time passed to build a winning team around Kane and Son? If the answer is yes, Sean, what manager can execute the rebuild without Kane and Son, in your opinion? Would it be like an Amorim or maybe a Postecoglou or something like that? If the answer is no, what manager do you think can execute the rebuild with Kane and Son? Which one do you think can actually convince them to stay?
The people that can convince him to stay is probably Pochettino and outside chance of Tuchel, because they're the bigger brand names. I don't think Enrique is going to fit Kane and Sonny system. I think if you want to play the high press, which is something that we were having this discussion on my channel last night. I don't necessarily think that it can't be done, but if Kane's playing in the 9, I don't think it can be done. Maybe if you put Kane into a 10 in a 4-2-3-1 situation, maybe you can affect the high press with Kane in it. But with Kane and Sonny, both of them in the same 11, trying to do a press consistently and convincingly and successfully, I'm not entirely sure. So if any of the managers that are going to come in want to do a high press, then maybe there is a future Tottenham that doesn't need to see one of, or maybe even both, Sonny or Kane. And bearing in mind, guys, you have to remember that at some point in the next 3 or 4 years, it could be in 3 months or it could be in 4 years' time, there will be a time when Sonny and Kane have kicked and scored their last goal and laced their boots up for the last time in a Tottenham shirt. So let's not be afraid of the conversation.
We have to accelerate it, though.
I don't know. I don't want it to happen right now. I'm just saying that, is there a situation where we can go ahead without Tottenham? Well, yeah, without those two or one of those two. It's more easier to get on board it if you sell them and get the money and then rebuild the squad around a manager who would play a high press, because I don't know if the high press necessarily is a wonderful fit for both Kane and Son. If you do want to keep Kane and Son, I think you're more likely to keep them, or keep Kane for sure, if you give him a new manager that he already has a good relationship with, like Pochettino.
Some people like Sean, I feel like, kind of just blowing up the whole thing and starting completely fresh, right? Sometimes it's just better to think in those type of terms and everything. Or sometimes maybe you just only want to break off a part of it and kind of keep maybe what you might think is the best pieces available. So it's just kind of up to you, I guess, at the end of the day. But do you feel like somebody like Kane or even somebody like Sonny, Sean, just quickly, do you think they're more convinced now after their experiences with Jose and Conte? Do you think they're more convinced by style of play, or do you think they're still more convinced by like the resume of like a manager? Do you feel like?
I think Kane, I don't know. I'm not sure about Sonny. I think Sonny's a very loyal person. I'm asking
you to be their therapist. Sorry.
I don't think. Yeah, I'm not so worried about Sonny. I think Sonny will be okay. And even if he wants to leave, I think that there's so much money. I think you'll get so much money for him that I think you can replace him. It's easier to find a left wing forward. There's a plethora of left wing forwards out there that you can go after. And given the commercial viability of Sonny, I think that a lot of clubs would pay a very handsome fee for him. With Harry Kane, obviously, it's impossible to replace him. It's very difficult to find a number 9 anyway. And, I think that we saw with Nuno, he wasn't interested in playing for Nuno. So I think if you go down a grade in the managerial resume, then I think maybe it's more difficult to convince him to stay. But I think he does. I think he has very good memories from what I've heard and read anyway. He's got very fond memories of Pochettino. So I feel like the best chance of keeping Kane next season is if you give him Pochettino to work for.
Although I don't really want to have to fight for Kane's affection, and if Poch comes back, that's probably what swayed my decision.
And also, Dave was probably jealous of that question to, try to pretend to be Kane's therapist. But we're going to ask on behalf of the Phil Army. The Phil Army, I mean, how do you want to do this rebuild? Are you doing this rebuild with Kane and Son, or are you doing this rebuild without Kane and Son?
Well, it's a really tricky one, guys, because the whole just, if you stripped it all down, if you're talking about rebuilding something, if this was a house renovation,
right?
If there was a listed part of the house, you're not able to rip it down. You've got to build around it. But that's based on the premise you're trying to keep that integral piece of what was there originally, build around it, because it's going to be there infinitum, until, we're all dead and gone, and you're keeping it for future generations. Unfortunately, as Sean always says, and he's there does come a time when any footballer, no matter how close we hold them to our hearts, do retire. You know, you can't keep going. Now, look, they're both model professionals. To be fair, Kane hasn't got that much pace to lose. I could easily see him doing a Teddy and playing for another 7 years. You know, maybe he will have to change his position. So, look, there's two ways of thinking of this for me. Either we keep Kane and maybe juggle around him, but depending on who we get in, put different pieces of the puzzle in. But going back to your original question, or we just get rid of them, get as much money as we can for them and try and rebuild. The issue with that is I do not trust the club to spend that money wisely at all. Their track record at the moment, and obviously we don't want to open the Paradici can of worms, but let me just throw a little bit of shade on him. He's shit. Absolutely shit. So just a little bit. No, I'm joking, lads. You know, he signed 3 good players, but that's not bad out of 17. So, you know, if you've got enough money to burn like we have, it doesn't matter. Do you know? Oh, no, hold on. Okay. So I think what we need better recruitment anyway. But my worry is we have, back to your original question, I think we've already missed the opportunity to build a team of the future around these boys. They could still play a part in a team, but I think if you're going to do a complete rebuild and build a massive team around them, I think we've missed that boat.
Would you keep one of them, maybe, Phil? Would you keep? I know it's a difficult question to ask because you might end up getting rid of one of your kids here. But would you keep one of your children? Would you keep Sonny or would you keep Kane here?
If I could, I'd keep both. But I don't think that should stand in our way of doing better. Look, I'll say it very quietly because obviously I'm on Dave's channel and Kane is my favourite player out of the current crop as well. But look, sometimes under Prime Poch, when he was injured, I think the first time he got the bad ankle knock, we actually played we actually looked more fluid sometimes without the big dog, you know. But that was when, what you've got to remember is back then, let's forget about the great back four we had in the midfield and on the attacking front, we had Deli who was firing. We had Ericsson who was winning with goals, but also loading the gun for the others. Sonny stepped up. And so we almost looked more fluid when no one knew who to mark. They were just going at it and we were looking really good. But every other time after that, Kane's been out with a long layoff. We've struggled. And at the moment, my worry is, as I said to you boys a couple of weeks ago, Sheffield United was a frightening future shock vision, Black Mirror style, or, you know, and for the older amongst us, Twilight Zone style, of what the future will hold when Kane goes, because we look shocking. We can build a team, and we will have to at some stage build a team without the big dog. But for me, we need, you know, he is our best player. We should keep holding him as long as we could. I personally, I've said to you guys, I'd break the bank to try and keep him, but we desperately need reinforcements. And
also the pressing thing I think that Sean brought up. The pressing thing that Sean brought up is interesting because you look at PSG, right? Like PSG have Messi, Neymar, Mbappe, 3 stars that, let's be honest, hate working off the ball. I think Sonny and Kane, we can, whether you want to say whether one works hard off the ball harder than the other, it doesn't really matter. I don't think they really are exceptional at it. And so we do maybe have to consider which one do you want to let kind of be that main focal point that can allow to be a bit kind of lazy, maybe off the ball, if you will. Which one do you want to maybe move on to another team? I'm not sure if it's a question worth asking for a tactical question, but I'm kind of interested in what Sean said about, like, can you really have 2 aging players in the same sort of lineup, all the time?
Look, just quickly, I think the whole talk is delusional. I think it's nonsense. I don't think it needs to be accelerated. And I think, yes, we still have time.
That is your question, brother. You asked the question.
Look, I have to create talking points. But, right,
what are we doing here, man?
No, actually, do you know what it is? Blame me. Blame Spurs between the lines. She brought it up on the fan show on Monday. Blame her. Right? What it is right.
That's hilarious.
I think it's absolute nonsense. I don't agree with it whatsoever. I don't think we've missed the time to build a winning team around it. Look, I heard you say there, Phil, about, there was a period of time where Kane was missing under Poch. It looked like we played better football. Grand. People say Sonny picked up Kane's slack when he went missing under Nuno. What about Kane picking up Sonny slack this year? I'm not getting into a Kane versus Son debate. My point is they both do it for each other at times, and I don't think we should enter that debate. But
they've only been here for each other for the last few seasons, lads. If one's not supplying the ammunition for the other, neither of them are scoring. Do you know what I mean? So,
but like the thing is, where I'm at with it, right? It's going to take ages. Like it's going to take us a long time. I get that this club is going to survive without Kane one day, and it's going to go on without Son one day. It went on without Jimmy Greaves, etc., etc. Right? I get all that. But at the end of the day, we've got the best player in the world in that position. Who guarantees you 20 plus goals a season. You're going to find it hard to replace. But, there is a system. If Poch came back, you could drop Kane into that cam. You could keep Sonny out on the left. You can still play that sort of system. Even if
with the press, though, can you ask both of them to press for 90 minutes? I don't know if you can. Not with Poch, with somebody who does a more progressive press.
Even if you bring in that, look, I hear you, but there's ways around it.
Even Amarin does that. Is pretty against Arsenal. He was doing the press for 90 minutes. I just don't know if that's something that we've got the stamina for in those particular guys, and or with Harry Kane. I think you could, like I said, if you pull him back into the 10 rather than the 9. But
there's other things. There's other things though we have to consider along with it. You've got two guys at the very top of their game in their positions. And look, I know people are going to argue over Son this year, but the reality is he is one of the best players in the world in that position. We're looking for a rebuild, which means you're going to be bringing in some new guys in here and stuff like that. You want guys who live their life the right way, dedicate every single ounce that they have to this football club. You want youngsters to see that. You want people coming in to see that. Yes, there's other issues where we need to bring in leaders, and are they the right guys to sort of lead this team and captain it? Maybe not, but the hardest thing to do in football is put the ball in the back of the net. And we've got guys that have consistently done that. And I don't think we need to accelerate the process of getting them out of this team. I think we can still work with them. I think most managers will want to come in and work with them. You look at Real Madrid. No one's sitting there saying about their Benzema not being able to press and everything is, and they still find a way of being able to play and win games and win Champions Leagues and stuff like that. So for me, when you've got some of the best players in the world in their positions, you've got to keep them and you've got to add to it and build around it. And that's where I'm at with it. I think there's so much more than just to get rid of them. I think you've got to look at the example they set as well. So when you have people coming in, you have youngsters coming over to train, that's what you want to see. Because when youngsters see that, that's going to be imprinted in their mind. And it gives them something to build on for the career. But when other players come in and see that, they're like, okay, this is what you got to do here, rather than before where you've got Endom Ladas coming in here, trunching around 50 yards behind people. You know what I mean? And you have to fucking run around with a bag of Maltesers to get them to catch up. You can't have that. You've got to have people that do it the right way.
Yeah, no, I agree. But do you feel like then if we are going to keep Ben Kane and Son, we need somebody who's tactically flexible, at least in my opinion, someone who can work with the big stars, someone who can work with the big dogs, who can work with, if even kind of Hollywood type players, if you will. And I think kind of I agree with Sean. Pochettino is the only one who's deliberately had experience with them before. And then Thomas Tuchel, I think, is the other guy who's worked with big name players before, has been able to make it all work. He's shown he can do a variety of different systems and whatnot. So it feels like if you do want to keep Kane as well as Son at the same time, you might have to go with a guy that can handle those sort of personalities, but also be able to handle it tactically. It's not even just personalities, it's tactically. Like, how do they make up for Kane maybe not being the same sort of player that can press and be able to cover a bunch of ground? How they make up for Sonny obviously being much more catered towards being able to run in behind and receive the ball facing goal instead of receiving the ball, with his back to goal. Those sort of kind of things, the manager is going to have to account for and also be aware of, right? Maybe some managers, like maybe we just experienced, tried to make certain players do things they weren't capable of. And so we have to have that as well, a guy that's capable of being tactically flexible.
Jack, the worry I have, though, is I've got a suspicion that some of the recent big-name managers that we've hired was maybe to make sure that we kept, especially Kane, happy. And it hasn't worked because, and look, we won't open this can of worms just yet, but I think a huge part of this is we've got every piece of the puzzle in place, but we're just not willing to go the last 5 yards to the end zone for our NFL loving cousins in North London or anywhere else. Other football is available. because we've got the stadium, we've now got the revenue streams, we've got some elite players. We then go and hire an elite coach to keep a particular player happy, but then we're not furnishing them with what they need, and then the whole thing falls down again. So it's a difficult one. It's like anything. It's a bit like the chicken and egg we've just had with Conte. Do you back Conte because he's only got 6 months left on his contract? Do we hire a manager to keep Kane happy when he's only got 18 months left, not even 18 months left now? Because he could go. Look, personally, lads, I think we just got to give Kane player manager, let him crack on with it. Do you know what I mean?
Give him
just make him director of football, PSG style. You know, look how well it's working out with Mbappe. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly to be honest, Jack, the question was, can we rebuild around Harry Kane's son? Right?
Have we missed the chance of building a winning team around Kane and son?
Right. Not so much.
Can we?
Yeah, and not so much should we be replacing them, because my answer was more around like, can it be done rather than should it be done? Because I want Kane and Son to still be here next season. If there's a decision to move them on, as long as it makes sense, right? If it comes like with Kane specifically, if it comes down to a conversation where he says, I am not going to play, if you don't sell me this summer, then I'm leaving for free the year after, right? Then I think a smart decision has to be made around where is the kind of sweet spot on the valuation. If someone offers 50 million quid for Kane, I think you turn it down, because if you get a Kane that's fully firing for the last season, you might just get into top 4 and then it pays for itself, right? Then you let him go, but you're going to make minimum 60 million, 70 million out of the Champions League. If someone pays 75 to 100 million, which I think is the right sweet spot, then I think you might let him go in that scenario where Kane says, I'm out of here.
You have to be follow-up, Sean. Yeah. You're saying, just to clarify, Sean, you're kind of saying, even though you don't want to sell Kane and Son, you have to prepare yourself for the reality in case maybe the bid that comes in is kind of within the realm of being able to solve the problem of them going. Yeah.
If it's 75 to, I'm not sure what Sonny's value is. I think it's a really difficult one because of the commercialization aspect, and I just don't know what that looks like. Yeah. You know, and maybe if you lose Sonny, maybe if you go, I'm not saying you can. I think it's a pipe dream, but if you could go and get a Kim Min Jae, maybe you can keep some of the interest from the South Koreans. Because I tell you what, it's a massive cash cow, not just in shirt sales, but in the tourism coming over, paying for the expensive tickets, all that stuff, right? So I don't know what that looks like, and I don't think none of us will ever find out. It's never written into the accounts, but I do think you have to have that kind of conversation probably before you, almost in an ideal world. And this is that chicken and the egg I was talking about the other day. Like, there's so many conversations that need to happen right now. It's not just about the manager. It's also about Kane's future. It's also about Paratici's future. Because if the sword of Damocles falls down and chops Paratici away from being able to do his job, then, you know, is a manager going to want to come in if they don't know who they're going to be working with as director of football? And also, if you know that Kane's going to be, I'll finish in a second. If you know that Harry Kane's going to be out of here at the end of next season, then does that lean you into a manager that is more likely to be able to work in a system that doesn't require Kane, i.e., or Sonny, right? I.e., you know, whether it's Tuchel that could do it better than Amorim, or whether it's Frank that could do it better than De Zerbi, whatever. I don't know the specifics of that, but I think that those conversations need to be happening and need to be happening now to get some indication, so you can be smart about it, not presume to know that you're going to have Kane to work with or not, because the style of play should directly be influenced by whether or not you've got these two aging but still incredibly important players in your squad next year.
I just want to grab these super chats here, Phil, and then we'll let you have your say, and then I have one more thing to say, and then we'll move on to the next topic. Moondog says, I'm sick of keep hearing about a rebuild, and he also follows up by saying, we have a rebuild every 18 months. I'm sick of it. And look, Moondog, this is something I've tried to highlight, my man, that, you know, we can't keep relying on manager bounces, because that's essentially what it seems to be right now. You know, trying to get players that have already been here to come in and play for the next manager, but also bringing in players for that manager. And it's sort of like, it's just delaying the inevitable process. And with it, we're wasting Kane and Son's career, and it's got to stop. We're not Southampton. We're not Everton. We're Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. And what we do need is consistency, my man. Big up. I really appreciate the support, brother. We've got Mia W says, now, David, unless you wish to plug my channel properly, keep my name out of your goddamn mouth. No, big up, guys. No, look, that's what I said. Spurs between the lines, you know. You know,
I couldn't believe how quickly you threw her under the bus, mate. It was
Yeah,
like
the deflection was unbelievable. I
like
wish Lloris had that.
Daniel Levy sacking
No, do you know what?
We need a new goalkeeper, Dave. That was a great deflection.
I've seen it twice this week. I've just remembered. Me came onto the fan show and got me all riled up. I was thinking, right, let's speak to the fans, see what they have to say. And then Mia straight out the blocks, boom, talking about Harry Kane. Right, we need to have this convo. And then also, I think Phil put a similar question in the Irish Hotspur group chat the other day when I said, is there anything you guys want to see us to discuss? So that's actually where the question comes from. I just put it into the
grovel.
Cool.
He's a real politician now. He's a real politician.
The first little bit of dissenting voice down here in my little corner. And Dave did a remarkable impression of Levy when he heard that first chant of "We want Levy out" in the El Sacico, and he threw.
It's more reminiscent of Conte. It's more reminiscent of Conte on Saturday night. It wasn't me. It's Mia and the players. They haven't got the right start.
It was Man U. It was Man U. It was Spurs versus Man U in October 21. And straight away, Nuno, aka Mia, went right under that bus. See you later.
Mia doesn't
Don't let the door hit your bum on the way out, Nuno.
Big up, Mia. Really appreciate the support, my dear.
Everybody, Mia, I still love you. Yeah.
Please do get over and check out Spurs.
Would never happen on my channel, Mia. Would never happen on my channel.
And I'll be there as well. Every channel it's on, I'll sniff it out like a hungry
Sean
rat.
slates people to their faces on the panel. You know what I mean?
Everybody do check out Mia's channel, Spurs Between the Lines. Get over there, see what she has to say. She's round here rattling cages. Big up, Mia. Really appreciate the support. We do have one from Phil. I want to take it after we finish this Harry Kane discussion.
And then also quickly, Brian Dempsey, member for 7 months, Flat Cap member, says, big up, Dave and Jack. #1 channel on YouTube. Come on, you Spurs. Pick yourself up, Brian Dempsey, the one and only. And honestly, the Brian army, the Phil army, plenty strong tonight, everybody. Could be interesting to see them go, head to head on maybe another debate show.
There's only love for the Brian army. If the Brian army wants to get involved with the Phil army, the peaceful revolution will happen in Tottenham. Coming soon. Brian. I don't know if you lot know this, actually. Gaguma relinquished command of the Phil Army. She's told me that I'm the general of the Phil Army. So I don't know if the rest of the Phil Army know this, but apparently I'm leading the horde up the high street when push comes to shove. So get your grappling hooks out, boys. We're going over the top in Lily White
the right
House.
way, Phil. Keep them pointed the right way.
I just wanted to stay on the Harry Kane discussion quickly before we finish it and move on to the next talk point. I wanted to say, I think, think about it like this as well. If we do end up wanting to sell Kane or so on, or people do want them gone, you're adding to that rebuild. Surely we're at a point now where you've got some of the best players in the world. Rather than add to that rebuild, you've got to keep them. You've got to have everything else in place, a good goalkeeper, a good backline. Because even if you do lose Kane and Son, right, if you can keep clean sheets, you're still in the game. You can take points. If you lose Kane and Son and you can't keep clean sheets, and you take Kane's goals out of the team like we've seen this season, we're done as a football club. We are fighting relegation every single week. So you have to have the goalkeeper. You have to have that back line sorted out. And you even have to probably make sure you've got your midfield sorted out so that you are ready for that transition. So that when they do go, yes, you might have a problem of breaking teams down and scoring goals. But you know exactly what that problem is and you can fix it. But what you can't do is add to the problem. And then all of a sudden, we don't have the back line or goalkeeper can't keep clean sheets and we're not scoring goals. It's a man-made recipe for disaster.
And we also maybe as well, if you get rid of Kane and Son, I mean, without already needing to fix the defense and already needing to fix the goalkeeper, already maybe needing a new left wing back as well, you could be giving yourself too much to do maybe in the summer as well. No, you don't want to run into a Chelsea Forest situation where you are needing to buy 14 players, 10 players. And I haven't done, I might be exaggerating, of course, but I do think we already have a few issues as it is. And do we even trust us to get it, all done in the summer? Likely not. And that's another thing to consider as well.
Yeah, but Jack, this is a point. And that when Sean was talking a few minutes ago, that's what came to my mind. That's what makes it even more important that we're not wasting any time dithering. If Conte's gone, get gone. I wasn't necessarily Conte out until I think I fell asleep standing up watching a game once at White Hart Lane, and I thought this can't happen because I'm quite high up. Row 61 in the South Stand, lad. It's a long way down. Do you know what I mean? I could take a lot of people out on the way. It's great seats, great seats. And if you can afford them, lads. Don't worry, Levy. I've still got that cash till running. Yeah. Listen. The thing is, we can't do that. And just as you guys are saying, but this is already what's happening. We've missed the opportunity to rebuild quickly because we keep mismanaging the spending. The recruitment's been so bad that now Lloris has aged out. So as well as needing at least one centre-half, if not two, if we want to persist with a back three, we've got now we need a goalkeeper as well. So, and then if Conte does go, we're probably going to need a cam as well. And then we've also got to, if we let this go for another season, Kane is going to go on a free potentially, which we can't run away from that. So we've got
four signings this summer, and we should be good to go, right? And then after that, it's just going to be a case of one here, two there, kind of you know what I mean? But like we've done the majority of the groundwork. You get those two centre backs, a goalkeeper, and a creative midfielder in. I don't know what else you really need apart from if Kane stays and Sonny stays. I think you've then got the nucleus done, and then after that, it's about getting rid of the driftwood. And
it's a lot of cleaning up as well as bringing in. Sometimes
it's more cleaning up. Well, it's not more cleaning up, but it's a lot of cleaning up as well. Yeah,
we forget that. We've got to replace Dan. It's actually not always as many.
He's a replacement for Gilly, isn't he? So there's the thing. Only 4 sounds fine when we say it quickly.
I know. I know. Yeah, four's a lot still.
But Paratici can't work in his home market at the moment. Yeah. And that's if he stays out of the clink. I don't know how his crowdfunding is going for the legal bill, actually. I haven't checked
that. We'll take care of that, Phil. Don't you worry. We're on it. Cool. We'll take care of that over here.
I'm not going to chip in for that sort of thing because, if you've done the crime, you need to do the time. But maybe I just recommend that he has a look at The Great Escape because I don't know if that's on heavy rotation at Christmas and bank holidays.
It's actually more the phone bills that we're raising money for because he still has to do the deals, from prison, and you only get an hour on the phone, so we need to pay for.
You know what? Don't you think the signings? I know Hitchin gets a lot of grief around here, right? But I just think Paratici's lost his mojo since Hitchin's gone. Do you know what I mean? He used to be like, they had a few beers and a few espressos on the way to the ground. Used to be giving it max under Nuno. And as soon as Conte came in, he said, "Get the hell out of here, mate. I need 2 of my coaching staff to sit back there." And then Hitch went, and now Paratici.
Didn't he sign? I feel like he signed Kulusevski and Bentancur when Hitchin went, though. Like, didn't he sign him that January?
Yeah, but I think that might have been the last hurrah. That I think the pills might have still been working.
Lost the fastball. Yeah. Phil Coy's saying here, this might be unpopular, but if Pochettino came back, would it be a good shout to get Deli Alli in to resurrect his career? Pochettino did get the best out of him. I mean, he is clearly...
Phil, are you talking about esports or soccer? Are you talking about him playing football or doing his esports stuff or Boohoo Man? I don't know what.
Bring him in maybe for the head of the media team. I guess that's what he's, kind of into these days.
I would rather play Harry Winks in goal for the first half and then up front for the second half for the next 10 years and bring back Deli Alli at this stage.
I sort of think it gives us an indication of what Phil's evening involves, though. Reruns of Pochettino videos with tissues and candles.
Listen, I think Phil Coy's is
good man.
He might be on for. I think he might be on to something here because look. In the end of the day, he's obviously been. I think he's been out. He's been out with Paratici. He's been out on on the espressos and the espresso martinis in his office.
Martinis, maybe. Yeah.
To be fair, actually, lads, like the way we got rid of Deli Alli, like we couldn't have done it in a much more wipe our hands type of way. Like it really couldn't have done any better. Like it's more Everton's problem than it is our problem now. And it's just, I mean, it's sad to see, but the fact
we let
that we were
an
somehow
we
able
have
to
got
get
80 million for at one stage, basically go for free. The thing I would say, though, to Phil Coy's is I actually hold Poch a bit responsible for the fall of Deli because Deli had lost form under Poch, but he still played him. He should have dropped him and given him a few home truths back in the day, and a lot of these problems could have been nipped in the bud straight away. Maybe not, because you can only take a horse to water, right? But in the end, man management's important, and for a young lad like that, I think he would have listened to Poch. And it's very sad. It's a sad story.
Where we're at with the situation.
Not that sad, mate. He's got paid a lot of money. He's got paid about 30-40 million quid to sit on his arse for the next 50 years of his life. I ain't crying any tears for Deli Alli.
And where I'm at, where I'm at with
mate, he could still be scoring goals for Tottenham Hotspur, couldn't he?
No, he couldn't. He's finished, right? We got to accept this.
No, but what I'm saying is if he kept going on the trajectory he was, Dave, It's
if.
unfulfilled potential, and in anything in life, I find that sad.
Yeah,
I
but
know
that's
he's set for life.
That's
I
his
don't.
books and maybes. That's all on him. I don't care. He worked through away his career. At the end of the day, we got to stop doing this. People still want to keep Dyer. He headed the ball into Mo Salah's path, and we still want to keep him. People want to bring Deli Alli back. The guy didn't play here for like 4 months, or like 2-3 years actually. Shit performances. People are now saying, "Oh, should we bring wing backs or wings back for what? To give away the ball in midfield? We got to stop this stuff. Just stop it. These players." Since then, they've gone on, they've chosen, Tottenham isn't the right path for them, and they've gone elsewhere. Kane and Son have still stayed here and given it their all nearly every single season. So I have no anything for these players anymore. They chose their career, they chose their path. As soon as things went to shit, they turned to shit, and it didn't show any ounce that they cared. They didn't do anything on the football pitch to try and change it. So for me, good riddance to them all. I'm glad they're gone. And look, with Deli Alli, he's had trouble out in Turkey as well. He's barely played. You know what I mean? So for me, he's
gone AWOL, hasn't he? I heard he's gone AWOL. He hasn't turned up for like a couple of days or something. No one knows where he is.
I think the chairman said that you're not welcome here anymore. I think.
Oh, was that?
Yeah, the manager
Wow.
said he's not welcome in training. I believe he just got banished from training. I think even altogether, banished from even match day squads, basically altogether. And talk about a place that you wouldn't want to upset the fans. I mean, those Istanbul teams are they take their football very seriously over there. So imagine trying to upset the fan base
I just think
over there. It just speaks to the fact that, I mean, he wouldn't dare come to Spurs. I mean, it's just if he can't do it in Turkey, if he can't refind his form, refind himself in Turkey, he's not going to refind himself here. That's for sure.
Listen, Jack, I think what you've seen is the dark side. You've seen the dark side of the Phil Army there. He just literally let a grenade cook in his hand for a few seconds, threw it in as a super chat, and the whole thing exploded. You know what I mean? So watch out. The Phil Army is strong. Physically and mentally.
Capable of anything. Dermatron says, big up, guys. For me, Conte will never return to Spurs. It's sad how it turned out, but I hope we will get in play. I hope we will get in someone who will play the Tottenham way. Dermot, I think first part for me is, and then I'll give the other part to Dave or Sean here, is that I think Dermot, I feel like Dermot, Dave, like he wants to go back to the old days, but it is sad to see managers that maybe I'm a bit of a sucker for kind of the personality charisma types like Conte and Jose and, guys like that. But it's sad to see them kind of be, kind of end their sort of tenures with Spurs, just in such a fiery way. Maybe that's also just how it is with those guys, but it is sort of sad to see both of them kind of fail at Spurs. I wanted to see Jose or Antonio Conte do well, one of those real charisma, personality, emotional type guys, and, kind of go through a few years of being the team that everybody hates that's also successful at the same time. And I guess we just never really got to do it. And so we are going to have to, think about it with people that maybe are more typed like Pochettino. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, mate. He's taking listen, if it's true that he is and there's a massive amount of like smoke here that, he said what he said in order to invoke a reaction.
Yeah.
Right. We win 3-2 that night, or we win 4-3 if Longlay's header glances in after in the 93rd minute, whatever. He doesn't say that. He loses his mind because he takes the opportunity just in front of the international break to invoke a situation where Levy's hand is forced. And if he does get fired, and he's done it in a way that doesn't breach any kind of like defamation character, whatever, all that stuff about the club, he's taking an extra 15 million quid with him on the way out. And to me, like, I'd have more respect for him if he goes, you know what, I want to go, like, I'll take my money now and I'll go. But if he's going to hang on and try and steal, and I'm going to say it, pick my words carefully, an extra 15 million quid from the club on his way out, lose all respect for that kind of behavior. I don't care if he's made bad investments and he lost money, he got scammed in Italy. That's not Tottenham Hotspur's fault. You've been paid very handsomely by Tottenham Hotspur. And if you're on your way out and you did what you did to like galvanize a situation, to work the mechanics of a contract through advice of a lawyer or something like that, to try and rip 15 more million quid out of our transfer
budget. Put us under hostage for the rest of the season, basically.
Yeah, taking advantage of it by some sort of clever advice from council, then I've got absolutely no time for the guy at all. I'm not saying that is exactly what's happening, but if that is why there is this deathly silence, because they're trying to figure out what the ins and outs are, and do Tottenham have cause to sack him, or what the situation is, and maybe they don't. Like, they're holding us hostage. He's holding us hostage to a very clever little manipulative system. And if that's the case, if it's not, fine, I'm wrong. But if it is the case, then screw him. I'm sorry.
No, I think
The
absolutely.
thing I would say on that, though, Sean, is...
Have you seen that news, by the way, Phil, of what Sean is talking about? There is some news about how Spurs could. It's possible Spurs are delaying it because there's some legalities around the extension, and then they would have to pay more to pay out.
I've heard a few things about that, but look, I mean, in the end of the day, guys, he's got a contract in hand, and I know that doesn't mean much anymore in life, but in football, it does, right? So this is the thing. And as AZ Spurs just said, the thing, or as Spurs, nothing he said was inaccurate.
That's besides the point, though, Phil. It's not about what we said was right or wrong. It's why did he say it in that situation? If
Sean,
he said
I've always wanted to say this. Let me land.
All right, make sure you separate the two.
Bingo.
Make sure you separate the two from whether we said was right is right. That's fine. Make sure you also include whether
I personally,
why he was saying it.
If I looked at him, right, either he's an extremely good actor, or he, to me, bearing in mind, as some of you may have seen, I can lose my rag at football from time to time. He looked to me like someone who's been working for Daniel Levy, managing Eric Dyer for about 14 months. That's what he looked to me. And it looked to me like he was saying things they may have been saying in dressing rooms and training grounds for a few months when bad results have come in. And these people are not listening to him anymore. It sounded to me like he just had enough. Someone asked him a question and he just let rip. It may have been premeditated, but I think there was a lot on his mind and there was a lot that he let go of. Now, for me,
it could have been premeditated within
powerful?
like 15 minutes. Like he could have just 15 minutes before the press conference just made the decision. Like, do you know what? I'm just going to blow up here.
He made the press conference. People wait for an hour before he came out and spoke.
Exactly. So maybe he, after
had
that
a quick
game,
phone call. Is now the right time to do what we spoke about?
Do what Phil just did with the Deli Alli question. It's now time for the grenade. Now
I'm telling you, the biggest reason why Levy's hanging on is because all that matters to him is top four. And guess what? Conte is still a great way of us getting top four.
No chance. No chance.
Now it is, Sean.
I think he'd be holding us. It's clearly he's broken his relationship with the players, Phil.
The players won't play for him now. No chance.
Mm-hmm. I agree, Sean.
To be fair, I think he thought they weren't playing for him anyway. Right.
So why so he's not the best chance for us to get top four, is he? He's not the best
credit
chance.
I will give you what you're saying is actually I'll give you all credit for what you're saying. It could all be true. We don't know. It could all be true. But if he has, then the club need to manage that situation. You know? If he needs to go, he needs to go. And if it's taken him this long to find a loophole in a contract, it probably ain't there. So
and will it change your opinion of the man if it turns out that he's doing all of this to take another 15 million quid out of the club, getting paid? He's got paid 30 million, 22, 23 million quid for 18 months' work. He's done no better than any other manager at Tottenham Hotspur. He got us kicked out of 3 clubs in the easiest year with the easiest draws ever in the history of my memory for Tottenham Hotspur's cup draws. And he's gone down swinging, not just tonight, but he calls out every time we lose. He goes on some rant and some moan. He's a volatile manager. If it turns out that he's doing all of this
to manipulate a situation where he can,
let me land. If he does all this to get 15 million quid more, is that going to be will you start to go, actually, you know what? Conte is a dick for doing that.
No, you know why? Because what happened last weekend was a surprise. He has done this in every single place since he's come into my consciousness. He has flamed out at every club in one way or another. Listen, he pissed off Abramovich so much. Abramovich didn't want to pay him, and that guy had more money than God. Do you know what I mean?
It's not answering the question. If it turns out that that's why he's doing it, does that change your opinion of Conte?
Not really,
because it has to. Come on, he's thieving another 15 million quid.
Yeah, but hold on, Sean. Thieving isn't what he's doing. He has pressed. He's basically, look. If you've seen my rant, I told you what I thought. He resigned again when he brought on Sanchez against AC Milan. this isn't a shock to me. He's been doing this for a while. He's been daring Levy to sack him. Now, if it is over money, the only thing I would say is, right, who's at fault here? No one held a gun to his head, unless it's really going down a sort of stereotypical Italian situation of American popular media. But really, what we're talking about here is we hired a very volatile A-list manager, right? And then we're expecting him not to be volatile when push comes to shove.
No, but I think that's what Sean
we-
is saying, is that he's acting volatile and he's holding us in hostage, which is somewhat what a volatile person would do. That's what
we should have realized that was something that could happen. And if we haven't got a clause in his contract, if there's something in there, surely if there's a trigger to an extension, why is
again,
it
that's
in
a separate
there that we've got to
conversation.
pay him out the whole thing?
Two things can be right at the same time. Daniel Levy can be an absolute moron for putting that clause in the contract, and Antonio Conte can still be an absolute dick for taking advantage of it.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm thinking.
Of course. But in the end of the day, we've taken advantage of things in contracts for years. Sentimentality ends as soon as someone's not worth it anymore, right? You could be the best player in the world. The minute that you can't, look, if Harry Kane did his, God forbid, if Harry Kane did his ACL tomorrow, God bless him. If he does his ACL tomorrow and can never play again, we're probably going to terminate his contract, right? Or there'll be a stipulation in there that if you can't play anymore, you get your basic paid out, and then all the insurances will kick in. Look,
that's not a deliberate ploy, is it, mate? I feel like you're defending the indefensible and you're twisting the argument here a little bit.
I think we're going to get into.
What I'll say, Sean, if it comes out that he has,
it's okay to call him a dick, mate.
Look, mate, don't get me wrong.
I thought we resolved that a minute ago. I thought the boy
I think the guy is a dick, because the thing is, he hasn't done enough for someone that get paid. And look, now I'm doing it. I'm telling you it should be about how much the guy's getting paid. But just any manager, you have got to find a solution to a set of problems. And that's not just exclusive to football managers. That's any sort of manager. If there is a problem, whether it's your centre-halves cannot kick a ball straight, or they've got a head like a 50p, and when they try and clear it, they create a great goal for Mo Salah. Whatever the situation is, whether your director of football has gone off the reservation, he used to be okay, but now he's buying right backs at a rate of knots when you need a centre-half, and none of them are any good, then that's an issue. But you've got to manage that situation. If your players aren't playing for you, you've got to manage that situation, right? Doing it in a press conference in front of everyone and is basically the equivalent of what the Tibetan monks did back in the day. Buddhist monks did. Set fire to himself in the street as a protest. He set fire to himself in the middle of a press conference, right? So if he gets 15 million quid to sort the scars out, God bless him. Do you know what I mean? It's not easy to keep up that sort of hairpiece, Sean.
Fair enough.
Amir Sardar here, member for 14 months, fan show, and he's going to take us to the next question here, lads. And he's saying, big up, lads, Levy out, Enoch out. Nothing will change with a new manager. Rebuilding this club and squad will take a momentous effort. Come on, you Spurs. And it is going to take a momentous effort to rebuild the squad here, everybody. So I thought maybe
almost as much momentous effort as it took me not to agree with Sean. He almost had me there at 1 minute.
Deflection. They got two goalkeepers in the house. We are going to be saying, with the rebuild needing to be full football focused, is Daniel Levy actually the right man in charge? Because of course he does a lot of good things maybe on the business side, but we have maybe found ourselves in a position where we actually need a lot of fixes, mostly on everything football focused. And so is he actually the right guy to be able to lead us into this rebuild? Is he maybe needing somebody like a Paratici or someone that can come in basically to sort of take full control of this rebuild? Because if you ask me, lads, I'm not really sure if he's really the one that is actually the most knowledgeable, the most competent, or the most intelligent when it comes to being able to really fix a club on the footballing side of things. But I don't know, Sean, maybe I'll start with you. Do you feel like Daniel Levy, is he actually capable of leading us into a rebuild on the footballing side of things? And I don't know if you agree with me with that sort of distinction, because I think that is where a lot of, fixes need to be made.
Yeah, sorry, Dave. You had your hand up. Did you want to say something?
Sorry, Dave. I was looking off screen.
Or do you want to take it? You can go first.
I just wanted to kick it off and maybe
crack on. Yeah,
go ahead, Dave. Yeah, sorry.
No, I just wanted to say, I think, look, when you look at Daniel Levy, right, him and his family own 29.4% of ENIC, so I think when I look into it, I think it's going to be very, very hard to move him out of the position he's in. He's the most powerful man at Tottenham. ENIC have the majority control, and his family and Daniel Levy own 29.4% of ENIC. He's been involved with Joe Lewis since 1995, when they formed ENIC, when they were at Rangers and stuff like that together. So I think he's sort of like an immovable object. But what I would say is, why can't we keep Daniel Levy and put him in a job of what Todd Klein is doing? Because the guy's fantastic at business, brings in multi-million-pound deals to the table, this, that, and the other. And the way he's built it through a lot of these deals, brilliant businessman. Why can't he be in charge of what Todd Klein is?
So no longer chairman, make him something else.
Yeah. And actually get someone has more of a football brain, where it's going to be led and be more football orientated, football focused, and just keep Daniel Levy doing what he's good at. Because my opinion is, I think he has built this club from the club I watched as a boy to now. I think it's grown. I think it has completely sort of changed. Like when I was watching this club, it was a sort of a mid-table team. We got to Pochettino, we started challenging for honours, this, that, and the other. And I get the frustration with trophies as well. I'm as frustrated as everybody else. But I genuinely think Levy took too much on with the stadium, with the training complex, and with the cost spiral. And I think he had to be so focused and orientated on that to try and keep them down, that he's lost the run of everything football related, the scouting department, managers, on the pitch issues in terms of the playing staff, the youth structure, everything around that is completely falling off, or it's completely being neglected by it. And I'm concerned that he's good at building things, but does he know how to fix things? Does he? I'm at the point, I'm not sure he knows how to get us out of it, because we've tried Paratici, we've tried changing managers. We brought in the guy for the youth development. He's gone, and he's gone to Arsenal. So every football sort of person coming in here is going straight back out the door. And it's like he's trying to rely on football people with them working below him, but he doesn't seem to know what he's doing. And everyone's steering him different directions because they've got different philosophies. And where I'm at, I think we need someone in that position actually dictating everything else, who knows football, who can speak to these people on a football level more so than a business level. Over to you, Shawnee.
Yeah, I agree with the Sean Maddox here, Sean Army. I mean, representatives of the Sean Army here. I think Levy should be the commercial director, and we need a football director. Would you agree with Dave? Maybe you move Levy. It's hard to get rid of Levy because he's
the owner, right?
Yeah,
like he's not the majority owner, but he is an owner. So ultimately, and I think he loves the kind of, he thinks he's better at his job when it comes to the footballing side than he really is. And if anyone's watched I know people always think of me as of Levy in or whatever, but just to get, before I get to the point, just to reiterate, because I know I'm probably always going to receive a lot of nonsense in the comments, but I am not Levy in. I'm very much, always have been very happy for them to move on, to go, to sell. If we can find someone else that's not going to jeopardize the future of the club. And as I said in a video a couple of days ago, I actually blame Daniel Levy entirely for getting us to the situation that we're in with Antonio Conte. Not because I'm not blaming Daniel Levy for the football that we've seen. I'm not blaming him for the stubbornness of the substitutions, the lack of tactical diversity, the overt faith in certain players, the lack of curiosity in others. All of that stuff I very much put at the feet of Antonio Conte. But the fact that we even hired Antonio Conte in the first place, I absolutely blame, and I give him an absolute capital giant L to Daniel Levy, because it's water and oil and they don't mix. And we went through the first process. If you want to do an experiment with a big brand manager, right, then you did it with Jose Mourinho. It didn't work, right? You went to negative football against the ethos, the traditional ethos of the club, and you screwed it up. And then you went through the entire embarrassment of replacing Mourinho with, started off with Fonseca, then you said no to him, then Gattuso, then you said no to him. We aired our dirty laundry, that whole process, got Nuno, that was an absolute shambles. And then you went and thought, you know what I'll do? I'll go and appease the fans with Antonio Conte. And I was always of the opinion that it was never going to work with these two, because the styles of personality characteristics are absolutely polar opposites. So I 100% think that Daniel Levy has taken a giant L. I'm even at the point now, not that I have changed my mind on any of the historical aspects, my retrospective view of Daniel Levy as a chairman until now, because I genuinely think he's done a good job, even in the football terms, taking us from where we were to where we are. Obviously, he's done an excellent job in the commercial stuff, but right now, I think that he is on the precipice of a no coming back. If he doesn't get this next step right, then he is an absolute shit show.
Cool.
I don't know if you're going to be able to get him to go to a commercial director. I think Todd
How many
Klein's
more
doing...
times, Shawnee? How many more times do we give him to that chance? Because you said if he doesn't get the next step, but how many more times
can he have the
if he hires another defensive manager and and someone like that, and we end up playing shit football again? Like, there's no, for me, like, it has to be like, of course, I'm already kind of like I said, I want him gone as long as the next owner comes in. But those things are different conversations to whether or not Daniel Levy is going to be a part of this rebuild. He is a part of this rebuild, right? He's not going to go until someone pays £6 billion. And to ask him to step back and do those things, he doesn't have to take any orders from anybody because he's the owner. So he's going to be involved. And even if you take, Paratici leaves or whatever, or even if that sword does come down on Paratici, what is that? What's going to happen before you find the new director of football? It's going to be him taking over the negotiations. And as far as we're told anyway, and led to believe, he still can't take his hands off of the steering wheel, even though he's hired directors of football to do it. Paul Mitchell complained about it. Steve Hitchen complained about it. They've all complained about it. Even Frank Arneson complained about it. So, Daniel Levy is a problem when it comes to the footballing side of the business. 100%.
But will he have, if the decision is such a big decision, will he have the humility to know that this is maybe such a big decision that has to be done right, has to be gotten right? So does he have such a huge ego to know, all right, no, I'm going to get it right, I'm the right guy to make the decision? Or could he realize that this needs to be done correctly, so he might have the humility to leave it to someone else? And I know I keep asking these therapist-like questions here, but what do you think?
I don't think he will, because I also think that he's got I think it's very difficult for him to take. He doesn't want to take his foot off the pedal or a hand off the steering wheel. And with the lingering doubt around Paratici's ability to do his job, he's going to want to have even more of one hand on the steering wheel, because he wants to be involved, because he knows that should anything change in Paratici's legal ability to do his job, then he has to step in and take over. So, look, I hear everyone's frustrations and I agree with them, but I don't think that there's anything's going to change. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to just sort of suck it up and get on with it, because protests aren't going to force his hand either, right? Whether it's 50 people or 5,000 people or 50,000 people, it's not going to change anything until someone pays him his money. He hasn't finished his plan. He hasn't finished his big project. One day he'll go. Until then, or unless someone comes out of the Manchester United failed bid system and says, are you interested if I pay you $5 billion? Maybe then, right? But apart from that, I don't see anything changing, and I don't see any reason for him to. I don't think there's any amount of pressure is going to make him step away. So I think we're just stuck with it.
Two things before we let Phil in there, because I know this is where Phil wants to come in. I've got one thing to say to Checkmate, first of all, because when Sean was I stopped going through the comments, and he was saying that Sean, he thinks Sean's a Levy Mo sent in to soften. Nowhere near it. No one, listen to me, man. Anyone that starts up their own YouTube channel, no one's a Levy Mo. Levy couldn't care what we have to say. Levy couldn't care about the people outside protesting. And that's just the harsh reality of it. He couldn't care. That guy drives 6 miles up through his electric gates up to his house, and he's sitting there with a chef-made dinner, people cleaning his feet, massaging him and everything else. You think he has time to send someone into YouTube to soften stance on Daniel Levy? Not in a month of Mondays. Nowhere near it. And second of all, just one more question for you, Shawnee, quickly, because I know you've got a great business mind on you. Is there a world where it could sort of coexist, right? Because having Daniel Levy as chairman and also owning 29.4% of Enoch is it's not something really that else is in the English game, where the chairman is sort of removable because he owns a part of the company. But could you go along with a process where you keep Daniel Levy, keep bringing in all the revenue, and then you have someone that ultimately sits alongside and making the football decisions where they could work together? Could that work in your experience?
If you are the owner of a business and you want to hand over literal control, like you say, like I'm going to give power of attorney, as in voting rights change, right? It's not the same as with like in a board, like in a board of for a stock, like a company list on the stock market. You might have people that are the majority owner but don't have the majority voting rights, or you could give people that don't actually own any slice in the company voting rights in what happens, so that they are, they'll be incentivized in other ways, but ultimately their opinion has some weight. But it's such a rarity. The person who owns the company wants to have the final say over what's going on. And so the only person in Tottenham Hotspur's entire hierarchy that can tell Daniel Levy, no, we're going to do it a different way, is the guy who owns the majority of ENIC, and that's Joe Lewis and his family. Or no longer Joe Lewis, it's now whoever it is, the people that have been in that trust fund, right? So whoever those people are, they're the only people that can actually overrule Daniel Levy. And that's not going to change. It's not going to change, right? Yeah. Unless something, like I say, unless something crazy was to happen, where Daniel Levy's life priorities shifted, or whether, I don't know, whatever, something was, and then maybe, but I just, 23 years of experience tells us he loves it. He doesn't think he's doing a bad job. He tends to reflect on the things that he's doing very well, and thinks the things that aren't going so well are not his fault. And like you say, Dave, he doesn't give a shit about the opinions of YouTubers. So, like I say, I agree with everyone that's got a problem with him. And I'd love him to move on as long as we found someone good. But unfortunately, I think that's going to happen for the time being. And so we have to suck it up and get on with it, and just have our opinions around what we can do in the areas that he does give control over to certain people for. And, Paratici allegedly still has control over footballing decisions. How much of that is true, I'm not sure.
So there goes my solution out the window. And just quickly, Bryce, not alarmed. He wasn't on the South Korean cover going out there last year either. Not alarmed. I think they don't do it just in case he's out in the summer. I think that's why. Big up though, Bryce. Sorry, Jackal.
No. I got to give my therapist question here to Phil. I mean, I'm putting you in a dark place here, Phil. I mean, I'm asking you to put yourself in the mind of Daniel Levy, and that's where the Phil army never wants to go. But do you feel like
it's exactly where we want to go? This is exactly where we want to go.
Wish you were in there so you can know what the hell's going on.
It'll be like, Endgame, Avengers Endgame. That's what it'll be like, the Phil army coming through portals, and Thanos is going to take one on the chin, mate, turn to dust.
Do you feel like he has the humility to know that he needs to get this
look, I've got a very short answer to this. No, he's not the right answer, and no, he doesn't have the humility.
And he doesn't have the humility to do it either. So that means we are in his hands to get the most important decision right. This is going to take. Yeah, but you can't get this wrong. Like, we can't be set back another 4 years.
Yeah, but this is the problem, guys. We all say we can't, or it won't be acceptable, or if it's always if the next transfer doesn't work out, or if we don't get it right next window. Oh my God, what if this happens? What? It's just that's been the story for ages. Look, I would have loved nothing more, and I'm sure I said it when I was on with you guys last time. I would like nothing more than if we had done it organically, and the Poch era had come to fruition, and we'd scale the mountain, right? And that was the whole point. I thought that was the sort of the goal of the whole ENIC project, was that to get to a stage where we could commercially back someone to say, let's go, let's now back a manager, let's bring through youth players, let's get English core of talent, and let's really go for it. But he didn't back Redknapp when he should have backed Redknapp. He definitely the whole Poch experiment failed as soon as we turned off the conveyor belt, and even before that, you could say once he sacked Mitchell. So the difficulty is, by this stage, right? He's gone through so many different solutions. He's worked without directors of football. He's worked with directors of football. He's worked with elite coaches. He's worked with up and coming coaches. He's worked with the coach that he didn't want, but came as an assistant to the coach that he wanted, but the coach he wanted had to go. He's done that at least a couple of times. So it's almost like,
but it hasn't been during that process, he's taken us from an average position of 15th in the league, 17th in the league at some points in the early stages of the 2000s, to in the last 10 years finishing second, finishing third. He's taken us to our highest league finish since 1961, and he's finished on average in the top four, 7 of the last 10 or 11 years, whatever it is. He hasn't done a bad job in the Premier League. The cup competitions are different, but in the league, he's done I don't think it's fair to say it like he's done all this stuff and he's a failure, because I don't think you can look at that.
Yeah, but Sean, I think this is where I think some, and God love you, you frame your arguments really well, and I know where you're coming from. I know you're not, I know you haven't got a picture of Levy behind your bed or anything like that. Actually, the only thing I would say, guys, when you say Levy doesn't care, I know for a fact that he does care, because when ENIC out was trending on Twitter, he blocked it, didn't he? He blocked it. He would, people were getting blocked left, right, and centre. You don't do that unless you're bothered. Like you guys know.
Do you think someone like Daniel Levy's sitting at home watching us now? Definitely not.
No, he's not watching us now, David, but he will hear back from, if a big account says something or other, there will be issues, right? But I'm not. Do you think that his Premier League performance over 23 years has been bad? Yeah, I do. Because in the end of the day, Sean, look, I agree where you're coming from, right? And look, one thing I must say, right, I wasn't just frontlining Levy out, I was and ENIC out. I was frontlining Sugar out back in the day. And in the end, Sugar sold up, yes, because he got a good offer, but because he was fed up to his back teeth of the abuse he used to get at Spurs. So I know. And the other thing I would say, though, about Levy, look, no one wants to see the back of him more than me. No one, I promise you that. But I think we do project a lot of things onto him when the guy hardly ever opens his mouth. So we don't know really what his personality is. We don't really know much at all because he never speaks to us, which is another thing that he receives enough, I think, rightly criticism for, because we never hear from the guy. And when we do hear from him, when he released that end of season statement about needing to rediscover our DNA, and to be fair, he did take some responsibility for taking his eye off the ball with a rebuild, and he didn't focus enough on the football side of things, which I've got an issue about. We're Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Everything should be the football side of the business. But I do understand there's got to be a delineation. I still just need to understand how you think going from an average position of 15th in his first 5 years in the charge to an average position of 3.8 in his last 10 years is a failure. No, it's not. It's not in itself. But the fact that it's taken this long. But also, Sean, I don't celebrate like average positions, because it doesn't mean anything. But it's a good barometer of whether you're progressing or not. And you're not factoring in the influx, the advent of money in football. When people say things like the common denominator of the continued failure of Tottenham Hotspur, people say 15 managers, it's not, it's 12, and all that stuff, whatever, right? But like they're looking for simple answers. Like they go, if we can't blame him, we have to look for something simple. I think it's more complex than that. And I think there's another giant elephant in the room that people overlook, which is money in football. And we have continued to do it living within our means. And so I think it's an absolute testament to have gone from 15th to 4th on a consistent upward trajectory over that long a period, whilst also living within our means, whilst the teams that have done better than us, the 90% of trophies that have always been won by the same teams, the same 5 teams, 3 of them have always been more successful than Tottenham. Like go all the way back to like when we were like still doing feudal farming. And the only other teams that have stepped up and have gone above us are sugar daddy owned clubs like Manchester City and Chelsea. I understand the frustration with the lack of trophies. I get it. Totally get it. But I don't understand when you look at the league to say that it's been a shit show. It hasn't, in my opinion. I think anyone who's making the argument that it has got an agenda or like a confirmation bias. But what I would say, Sean, though, is I understand your argument, but what if Liverpool haven't had sugar daddy owners? I don't think Fenway have put in a huge amount of investment into the club. Okay, they might have been commercially more relevant than Spurs back in the day, but then I would say that was an underutilization of our financial clout in the first Liverpool place. Are an example of the most wealthy. Spurs have got the most wealthy fan base in the country.
Liverpool were an example of competency, I think. With
Liverpool, like apart from the period when they almost went bust in 2006, 2007, Liverpool have been one of those 3 clubs that have always done better than Tottenham. They've always been a successful club, a super successful club, one of, if not the most successful in terms of trophies. So to compare Tottenham to Liverpool is, I think, a disingenuous comparison. Yeah, but if you look where they were when ENIC took over and where and during that time, a lot of people throw out this, the average league position thing. Apparently we've had better average league position than Liverpool in the last 12 years or what have you. What does that mean? What does it matter? But it shows progress. It shows progress. It doesn't show success, but it does show progress. And I just think that there's a difference between like success and failure. is it's not binary. I don't think it's binary. I don't think if you don't win, you lose. If you don't lose, you win. I don't think that's a fair comparison.
Sean, look, I understand that teams can be successful without winning things. You know, Brighton this year, they'll be very happy with what happens at their club, no matter where they finish now or if they win anything now, because they've overperformed. What I'm saying to you is, if you look at Liverpool aren't owned by a nation state.
Not yet.
They haven't got a huge ground. We probably even before we knocked down White Hart Lane, we probably had similar match receipts to them. I don't understand where the argument is that.
Well, their success has been an incredible recruitment and incredibly well-timed.
But why couldn't we do that then?
No, 100%. But I don't blame Daniel Levy for the identification of the talent. I'm sorry, we're probably getting off track, Jack and Dave.
No,
I'll finish.
You guys are doing some hard work here.
But this is the problem.
I know that the obvious, 100%. Nobody's saying the buck stops at the top. I get it, right? And that's a fair argument. But if you're going to do that argument, I've said it a million times, then everything that's good about Tottenham Hotspur, all the success, all the relative success also needs to be aimed at there. But I think there's a massive inconsistency in the allocation of accountability. All that's good has been identified and given to people like Pochettino, and all that's bad has been given to Daniel Levy. And I don't think that's fair. But what I would say is when it comes to talent ID or things like the brilliant decisions to liquidate your assets when they're at peak value. You mentioned the opportunity to sell Deli Alli for 80 million quid, and we didn't take it. Liverpool sold Coutinho for
50 million.
Okay, Liverpool sold Coutinho for 150 million quid at his absolute peak. Somebody in that club, whether it was Klopp or whoever it was, turned around and went, let's get rid of him because you know what? We can go and get Alisson and we can go and get Virgil van Dijk, right? And that was their part of their little rebuild. We haven't done that. And I don't think Daniel Levy, personally, he might get involved in the negotiations of how much to bid and all that nonsense. And I hate that about him. And I will say 100%, again, put that in the con column for Daniel Levy when you're doing an analysis. But I do not blame Daniel Levy for figuring out the Ndombele or for screwing up with Ndombele. I do not blame Daniel Levy for Deli Alli's, collapsing mental aptitude and mental
even
interest.
gave Ndombele his life story, try to motivate him. Just kidding.
I think that all those things get allocated towards Daniel Levy, but ultimately Daniel Levy, all he's done is hired directors of football, all of whom have got a phenomenal CV, a phenomenal resume. He's hired them, and he's hired them for too long in the case of Steve Hitchen, right? But I think that the areas where Tottenham need massive improvement is in the hiring and firing of people that are responsible for the hiring and firing or selling or buying of players. And I think that is where Tottenham are screwing up. I know what you're saying.
I don't know, Sean. I don't know if this muddies the water,
though, is it?
Phil,
this issue with hiring people isn't a new. Sorry, Jack, isn't a new issue.
No,
we've been falling short. You know the famous winter transfer window when we were meant to be in for Tevez and Cahill, and we ended up with Nelson and Zaha.
Yeah.
I actually thought Zaha was okay, to be fair, but he wasn't exactly Tevez.
He was injured. He was fucked at the time.
Yeah, of course. But all these things, and it's always the amount of sliding doors moments in transfers.
100%, I agree.
And look,
even the recent one, right? You could have got Kim Min-jae for 6 million, ended up paying 11 for Joe Rodon.
Yeah,
all these things. So what I'm just saying, right? For me, you look at Levy. And I know this is something that's been thrown around a lot in different podcasts and different channels lately, but it is, I think, as simple as this. The level of attention to detail and only wanting the best in terms of the stadium build and the training complex. I've been lucky enough to go down there recently with a few of the guys in the community, and it is unbelievable, the training complex, right? And some of the kids that we saw, were unreal. Now, I don't know what's been going on, like where the conveyor belt stopped between the under 12s and below that we saw and what's coming through to the first team. But hopefully these lads will make it through. But there's not the same level of the best at all costs, and we need to make this happen. Because I believe, right, and again, this is me projecting what I think his personality must be, because the bloke won't speak to me. Stop ghosting me, Dan. But if we saw that same hunger and desire to build the best possible football team we could, if then that didn't compete any higher than third, Sean, I think all of us could say, you know what, he's doing as good a job as he
Yeah.
can. He's fighting against
And I agree with
forces
that.
that are beyond
I agree with
his
that.
I just
agree.
wanna add-
beyond all of us. But all the time, we all know we're not we're not doing the level best we can.
I agree
We
with that. I
should
agree
be
with that.
doing more. We could be doing more. And that's what, look, as much as I want him out, right? The thing I would say, and the reason I protest, is because I want to hold him as the leader of our football club more accountable.
Fair enough.
I want him to do better. While he's here, he has to do better. While Dyer's here, mate, you need to do better. While we are supporting, if we go to the games, we have to do better. Sing your hearts out, lads. Don't be sitting on your hands. If you want to boo someone properly. Do you know what I mean? Get your boot off and throw it on the pitch. Do you know what I mean?
I just want to add to
everyone needs to do better. Everyone needs to do better.
I think 2 points I want to add, and I think they're points that would definitely help.
Yeah.
You know, at Tottenham. And sorry, Jack, go on.
I was gonna also add as well, like, and I don't want to muddy the waters even further here for Phil and Sean, but I mean, I personally, and I'm curious actually what Phil and Sean do think this as well as you, Dave, but I don't really think anybody has a divine right. Like Spurs already spend like the fifth or sixth most money on average. I don't think anybody has a divine right really to be spending more than that. Yeah. I know Spurs are a wealthy club, and don't get me wrong, Daniel Levy could be spending plenty more, but I don't think anybody has the divine right to be spending what Chelsea, Man City, etc. are spending. Like, it's just, that's a privileged few. It's a privileged couple that basically are in that sort of spending bracket. What you actually should deserve, and what every club should deserve, is not blank check money, but actual competency with the money they have available to them. What everybody should have is, at least, no matter what your budget is, you hope that you have the right people within the hierarchy that are able to be competent at the framework of the club. And that's what we deserve. That's what everybody deserves. No one deserves $3 billion on a defense, but you do deserve competency at your football club.
I agree.
And I just want to add these in from Checkmate 734 here. He says, I think the issue so far is that the club doesn't talk to the fan base. The club never came out and told us what Conte's mandate was. We know what Conte as a win now manager, and assumed he was here to win now. And look, this is the problem, you know, the communication to the fans. It seems like they only do it when the pressure's real on for them to do it. It's not like they're coming with anything. And look, it leads to the bad relations. It leads to fans making up their own minds on things and stuff like that, because there is no clear communication and stuff like that. And that's one thing that 1,000% needs to be done better, Checkmate. And then we've got Pat Whelan says, guys, most chairmen know as much about football as we know about microsurgery. What we need is proper football men on the board. A bit like, you know, what's that guy at Arsenal, Edu? You know, he has a huge say in everything that's going on around there. Played for them. And I think that's something else that could help, is if you had someone, you know, who played for the club and has the club's best interests at heart, up at board level as well. I think fans at least then would feel that they're represented up there, right? Because you'd like to think that the player, whatever player is up there, has the same passion as the fans, you know?
Isn't that what we wanted with Luis Campos or whatever his name was? And also,
he went to Barca, right? No,
Rangnick, we made fun of him as a manager, but Sean, he technically had that role as like a guy who had a lot of power at, I believe, one of the RB Red Bull clubs, and he had a lot of power in the Red Bull system.
Yeah, 100%.
What we could have, I think.
100%. I agree. I 100% agree with the idea of having football guys. I don't know, because it's a very specific, like, director of football. Like Edu seems to be like, you know, maybe a needle in a haystack, in that he has all the experience from playing, but also all of the intelligence to be able to work and operate at that board level, plus all of the general knowledge of what's happening in world football, and having the network. Like, it's probably a rarity that you'd find, you know, that many ex-players that have all of the different kind of chops that you need to be able to do it. And if they, but I agree with you, David,
that are really down on
United have done
the amount of deals that he missed out on.
United have done it for years. They've always had sort of you know, especially under a lot of Ferguson's reign, is players that have sort of had a massive say in and around the club, being able to advise people. Liverpool constantly have their legends in around being able to advise people and stuff. And I just think sometimes you do need that, whereas a footballer or someone with that football knowledge can say, look, it makes sense from a business point of view, but here's what you're not seeing, and can avoid us away from some of the disasters that we have seen at times.
Yeah. I agree with everything I agree with what you've all said. You know, I think that it's a very complex situation. And the only reason I brought up the situation, not to get back into it, but the only reason I brought it up was I agree with all the reservations and the frustrations around the trophy drought. Completely, I get it.
100%.
But when it comes to the league, which I believe is the best barometer, over an extended period of time, I think that Tottenham have done. I think Daniel Levy needs a little bit more credit than he gets for some of that stuff when it comes to the league barometer, because you can't get lucky in a league. You have to, play everyone home and away twice every season, and to have the general upward trajectory has, I think, not been something. Which is why my rear view reflection on Daniel Levy is not negative, and why I could never be part of the Levy out kind of bandwagon where people do resent him. But going forward, I'm at the point now where we've had like 4 or 5 years of stagnation or plateauing and maybe like backward steps. And if he doesn't get the next one right, then I think that generally speaking, not that I think it will change whether my opinion suddenly pivots to Levy out. Nothing's going to change either way. But generally speaking, I think Daniel Levy, this particular decision around Daniel Levy, what manager he goes with, what he does with Paratici, and how that transpires over the next 2 years. If he gets this one wrong, then my patience for him will have run out as well.
But we're also in danger of even losing where we are now. We're barely scraping into top 4. It's a struggle, this, that, and the other. And where we're
Newcastle
going
coming up strong, Dave. Newcastle coming up strong.
Yeah.
Where we're going in reality is we're falling further and further, away from trophies. Whereas before, you would say up until maybe the Champions League final, we were in that trajectory. We were building something towards it. Since then, we're falling further and further away from it. We're regressing. We're falling backwards. And like I alluded to earlier, Kane and Son, they're only going to be around for so much more longer. If you don't have a manager in place to be able to build the foundations in place so that you're ready for Kane and Son to depart, or you're ready for them to retire, whatever it may be, this club is falling further and further back. You're going to see more and more managers sacked, constant changeover directors of football, and it's only going to end one way, down in the Championship. So for me, I'm going to end off on my part on tonight's show, and what I'm going to say is it's absolutely crucial that this club, aka Daniel Levy, most importantly, because he's the one making the decision, gets the right manager in the door, decides the right director of football, whether it's Paratici to continue or not, and get the foundations in place before our best top players retire or they end up being sold because their contracts are running up. If we don't do that, this club is only going to fall further and further backwards. But that's end for me tonight.
Well, speaking of legendary players, Wolf Mahler, member for 22 months. Harry Kane, England's top all-time leading scorer, everybody. He's one of our own, isn't he? Wolf Mahler, 22 months as well. You're one of our own, Mr. Wolf Mahler. You absolute legend. Thank you for all the support.
Big up the Wolf.
What do we say to Big H then? What?
Do you ever think he just gets tired of breaking records? Do you ever think he just wakes up one morning, he's just like, I'm sick of it.
Somebody's got to break the records, Dave.
I would imagine he's actually broken the records for the amount of records that he's broken.
Most records.
Mate, listen, the record. There's 2 records I want him to break that are left. At least 2. First run, obviously, to break old matey boy Shearer's Prem goal scoring record. I don't think he's going to catch Dixie Dean for the all-time top flight record, but the other one is I'd love him to break Spurs trophy drought. That would be a hell of a record for him to break. But listen, lads, the thing I would say about trophies, as much as I decry the lack of trophies, as much as the next person, no one, like you're saying, Jack, about divine right to spend money. No one has got a divine right to win a football match. You've got to earn it. No one's got a divine right to win a trophy. You have got to earn it, and you've got to have the rub of the green as well, to your point, Sean, about the variance and the variables that come into cup competitions. But I just think we've fallen a long way in the last few years from what I believe Spurs to have been. Unfortunately, you've got to look back at a lot of grainy footage. Even the colour stuff is looking a bit grainy now when we're in our pomp. This picture over this shoulder, that's going to be 40 years ago next year, which is crazy. And we've only won 3 trophies since then, which is a long old gap between trophies. And I just think we need to get back to a mentality where we're all pulling in the same direction, but we all want the best, and we we like to do things with a bit of style and a bit of panache. Now, I think the chairman needs to come out and say exactly what his plan is and how he's going to get us there, right?
Yep, agreed.
Well
I agree with that.
And I think we can then need to get behind it. Look, I'll until they fix up, I'll be ENIC out. But until then, I think we all need to get behind improving Spurs. And I think there is something's kicking off. I think a movement called Change for Spurs.
Yes.
And I think as much of us need to get behind that as we can. Because look, Sean, I think you're right. And a lot of people, I know Sava and a few of the lads are in this camp. Look, almost protesting doesn't mean anything because until one of us finds 6 million down the drain, 6 billion, I mean, down the drain, and can rock up at Lily-White House and bang on the door and say, "Danny, I've got your money. You can go now."
If it makes you feel better and you know, do what you got to do. But for me personally, you know, I live 2 hours away from the training ground and 2 hours from the stadium. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna be there.
Down.
No.
But look, I just think if we have got more power as people, as individuals in society, we have got more power than we know. And together we can achieve a lot. Now, we can't buy the club unless, Sean, you help me with my crowdfunding idea. You know, we only need to stick in a few. We
already spent all our money on Paratici as well, Phil, by the way. So.
No, listen, mate, Paratici, unfortunately, mate, I'm going to siphon off. I know you're not a big fan of siphoning money, but we're going to siphon off all the money from your crowdfunding into crowdfunding buying the thing.
He knows
anyway,
how to cook
listen,
the books. It shouldn't be
as soon as the stream ends, I'm going to slide into Mr. Ineos's DMs and see if he wants to buy Spurs.
I don't think he's the right guy. See, this is the thing, right? I worry about that one because, you know, I think that he's going to leverage the club with so much debt, right? And I think that if you look at what's happening, not to get off on it again, but this is basically, I'm not saying he's the wrong guy. I'm just saying that he's
not the right guy.
There's a massive. I'd love to know how he would plan to actually finance the thing, because right now with interest rates where they are, you see what's happened in the banking market right now with what happened with the Silicon Valley Bank. All these problems that I was mentioning a few months ago about the threat of interest rate risk and currency risk. All of that stuff is happening right now, and so find me a chairman that can come in, pay the money, take us over, but not put us in front of that risk, and I'll be all about it. But until then,
the only thing, Sean, you can hedge most of those things, right? You know,
you still got to pay. You still got to pay the interest. You still got to pay the interest. Right now, if there's 6%, 7%, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Dan, look, whatever you want to say, Levy's got all that debt secured at phenomenal, historically low rates, right?
100%. Yeah.
So, you know, even I
pat on the back, Daniel.
Credit for that one. Slow your rope down, Shawnee.
Well done, Dad.
Slow down.
One step at a time.
Slow down. Now, listen, I just think look how badly run, right, from a debt point of view, Man United are, right? They haven't redeveloped the stadium. There's piss pouring everywhere, apparently, whatever. Yeah. Saddled them with loads of debt. But they're getting bought out. You know, this sort of things happen, unfortunately, now with football clubs. The one thing I would say is Smoking Joe and Dan the Bagman running out of money? Because by their own comments in the financial statements, with this greater regulation of football spending coming down the pike, is there going to be less oligarchs and wealth funds in the market to come and sports wash in a few years? So is there a window of opportunity to maximize what they can get for the club closing? So do they need to think about this quickly?
Yeah, 100% they do. 100% they do.
So there you go. Look, one of your viewers, you know, Dan the Bagman Levy, is now going to be straight on the phone trying to flog a football club, Dave. So you've got to give yourself and the stream a bit more credit than you do, mate.
Get yourself on Rightmove. Go on the app in about 20 minutes' time. You'll see Tottenham Hotspur for sale, about 9 billion or something. You'll see it on Rightmove.
Actually, Sean, listen. While no one's listening, while we're not talking to anyone but a few hundred close friends on YouTube, right? I think what we all need to do is start going out and finding a few rich punters, you know, down the boozer, you know, in the pool halls and, you know, on oil tankers somewhere, and just pitch the idea. Look, lads, there's a football club, a lovely, beautiful little football club in the north of London.
She needs saving.
And, you know, she needs saving. We can get the sale done quick 10% for ourselves in the skyrocket. That'll pay for our season tickets for the rest of our lives, lads. You know what I mean? As much neck oil as you can buy.
Are those your final words of the evening then, Phil? Basically,
Absolutely.
Speak to any oil tanker, any rich tycoons.
Danny Levy, don't worry. You think I'm against you all these years, but I'm going to find you a buyer, mate. And when I do, 10% out of their end, not yours, son. Don't worry about that. I've got you, mate. Yeah. Nice. And then, as a parting gift, I know your mate Antonio won't speak to you anymore, right? Especially after he diddles you out of that last 15 million quid that Shawnee's so worried about. But what I will do is I'll get the number of his
angry
wig
about.
guy.
If it's true, I'm angry about it.
Why are you angry about 15 million quid?
We're not getting back into that again.
Come on. And Dombele spent that on cheeseburgers since he signed for Spurs. What are you talking about? Jesus. Well, listen, everyone loves a good rant, don't they? Everyone loves a good rant. I'm just gutted now because my rant is falling further and further down the top 10 list of epic Spurs rants this season. I think he's gone to number one.
He's gone to Phil Army, the other box
Conte.
office.
He's
Sean,
done me, mate.
Final words of the evening. And
I really enjoyed the chat. And listen, apologies. I know you had like 500 questions to ask, and we only got through 2. So
we got through the important one, which is always Daniel Levy, and that's all we need to do is get.
You know what it is, Sean? Too much Irish DNA. Too much Irish DNA on the IrishHotspur. Who'd have knew?
Yeah.
Who knew?
Who'd have knew? Listen, I love coming on the channel. Sorry, Dave, go on, mate.
No, sorry, I was just going to say, Shawnee, don't worry about it. We've got more for the next day now.
All right, well, exactly. Yeah, bring me back on, and we'll get through one more the next time, and then by about the summer, we'll finally get through your list. I love coming on. Love having a debate with everyone. Thanks for having me.
We've got 100 questions. If the chat can come up with 100 questions, by the time we've answered them in about 500 streams, Daniel Levy will have died of old age, and we'll finally have a new chairman.
I just
keep up your good work, boys.
Sean, tell people where to go.
What's coming up
on the channel? Actually, better question, Sean. What's coming up on the channel?
Just my usual stuff. I do my dog walks every day, and then I am going to get back into live streams. I've done a couple recently. I'm ring rusty with the hosting stuff, but there was a good couple of hours of stream last night, and I'm going to do more and more of them, and I'd love to obviously have all 3 of you beautiful people on very soon. So just keep a lookout. But Spurs Talk Show is where you can find me. I'm about 50 subscribers now, or 40 subscribers away from 6K. So if anyone hasn't subscribed, it would be really very much appreciated.
Come on, get over there and smash the subscribe button on Spurs Talk Show. He's an absolute brilliant guest on any channel he's on. Always brings a difference of opinion, which is always good in my book. So everybody, check him out. Get over there and smash it. Jack, anything else you want to say?
I'll be on Mile High Hotspur later, Leo's channel, everybody. So I'm just going to plug that, put that in the chat there as well, everybody, to save that link too. But yeah, everybody, check out Sean. Make sure that you're always thinking of the Phil Army. Hit that like button on the way out. All that good stuff, everybody. Also, fan show tomorrow too, please, everybody. So come and keep me company, everybody.
100%. And for anyone that if you did like some points and you don't want to watch the show back, we will be clipping parts of the show and breaking it down into segments and re-putting it up there for redistribution. So you can hear it all over again if you enjoyed it that much, everybody.
Eat the elephant one bite at a time, everyone.
That's it for us today, everybody. A massive thank you to Phil. Brilliant. Really appreciate you coming on, my man. I always enjoy having
you on. Big up, Dave.
At Spurs Talk Show, aka Shawnee. Always enjoy having this guy on as well. We love him over here, and please do check him out. And a massive thank you to Jack for hosting and putting the show with me together today. We're out. We'll see you back here for the fan show tomorrow. Hopefully, we actually have news on what sort of direction going in terms of management. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on,
I still can do it one more time. I didn't think I'd get to do it once, but I can still do it one more time. In Conte we trust.
Conte we trust. He's still in there, baby.
He's still in there. Nice.
Just give me one more tomorrow, please. Thank you.
Wherever you go.